Well, hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma. I'm Nick, and today we are continuing our short series on being prosperous with
the frequency of prosperity. Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kisma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. Hey, Kisma.
Hello, hello.
So we're recording this on a Saturday afternoon.
We are.
And tomorrow, Game of Thrones concludes.
How many people out there have already seen it? Because this will definitely drop after that final episode.
Yeah, it will definitely come out after that. It's been so interesting to watch the ride of this and leave the show alone. Like whatever people think about it. Personally, I think it's brilliant. Like, it's not at all what I expected, but it's basically exactly what I expected, which was to be shocked and, disappointed in certain ways.
Right.
But the reason I'm bringing it up is because today we're talking about frequency.
Right.
When you watch, what sort of frequency do you pick up there?
Of Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Dude, we don't even need to ask that question. I know you know me, I stopped, I don't know what episode it was, but it was that one episode where somebody's face got just imploded like a pumpkin. I was like, I cannot watch this anymore. It was
the Mountain, the Viper was the
yeah.
episode that you're referring to.
Yeah. It was traumatic to me. So I stopped for a couple of years. And then I think I picked it up last year. I was like, oh, okay. And this has been a compelling final season to a show that I know so millions of people watch.
Yeah. And it's really wild to watch the whole thing unfold. And I see in there the frequency around it too, of like, okay, the show is what it is. Like, it's violent. There are horrible things happen. If you've not watched any of it, please do not get attached to any of your favorite characters. Okay. That's the only thing. No spoilers, but I'm just going to tell you that. Okay. Don't get attached to anybody. Because anything can happen. But now I see with people, people are so emotionally invested in the whole ride, and it's creating all of this chaos around the show. And I mean, I even saw today a petition of people who were like, we want to redo season 8. We want the ending that we deserve. I swear to God, there was almost 1 million people.
That's crazy.
It was wild.
That's insane.
Yeah. But speaking of the frequency,
the ending we deserve.
The ending we deserve.
That is not prosperous.
They're just hating all over the directors and the writers and just they're really just hating all over the whole thing.
Sad.
Yeah, it is sad. It really is. So anyway, speaking of the frequency, not so prosperous.
Not so prosperous. Yeah. You got to definitely detach from those things, guys.
So first, if you could, because last week, if you haven't listened to last week's episode around the state of being of prosperity, well, definitely go back and have a look at that. Or have a watch or listen to it.
The mindset of prosperity.
The mindset of prosperity, excuse me. And then as we dive into this, I'm wondering though, if you can just differentiate, okay, so there we're talking about mindset, here we're talking about frequency. Well, what is the really shift that's happening here?
Yeah, this shift is so important, and the frequency of prosperity cannot happen without the mindset of prosperity. Let's just start there because, it's like I said last week, we attract what we are. But it really does start with what's happening in our thoughts. So if you think of the thought flow has an energy, it becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. And as we're thinking, it's like it's shifting the entire vibe of our being. Anytime we're in a funk, we just need to observe our thoughts. And we'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not thinking really high level. This is why people crave to be around others that have higher thoughts. They crave that because if they're seekers, right, they want to be lifted up. So now the frequency of prosperity is really looking at, well, what's your vibe? What are you attracting? Let's really look at what you're attracting in your life. And, like we said last week, if you've got chaos, there's chaos in you. If you've got harmony around you, you've got a harmonious mindset. but also all the people, places, times, and events. And if you want to manifest faster, raise your frequency of prosperity.
Okay, so raise your vibe. Is that like just like
your
what is
vibe
that?
is your
like,
tribe?
Is
yeah,
that like thinking happy thoughts? Is that like what? Like, can you dive a little bit deeper into that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, start with the thoughts, right? But what are your actions? Are your actions congruent with your words? I love what Florence Scovel Shinn says. Your word is your wand. So, are you wanting to have a prosperous life, but you're dropping a lot of F-bombs? I'm sorry, it's not going to. I know there are people out there that make a lot of money and teach a lot of prosperity and abundance, and they're dropping F-bombs. Okay, maybe it works for them, but we got to look at everything, right? We just have to look at the full picture. If you want prosperity in a relationship, but you're cheating on someone, it's not going to happen. Right. So it's really getting into that cause and effect and law of attraction of, if you just imagine your being, your energetic being is positioned in a circle, like this little sonar radar, and there's a ping going out. It's going to go out into the universal intelligent space. It's going to attract a like frequency and bring back the like frequency.
So really just looking at it on an energetic level.
It's the energetic level, which is created by how you're thinking, how you're speaking, how you're acting.
Yeah. Well, the incongruency, I think, is a really important piece. It's one that kind of can fly under the radar.
Right.
Like, I don't know if any of the listeners out there, if you've ever caught yourself judging all over another person, and then you have that moment of awareness, or you are shown that moment of awareness,
which is usually what happens,
right? Of how you have actually been doing that, right?
Right.
And doing that yourself, and contributing to that. Like that, it's like, ooh, man, like you're judging on somebody else for doing something, and then you're actually doing the same thing.
Right.
And the integrous piece around it, the integrity around it, is something that actually just inherently tends to lower the vibe. Am I correct about that?
Yeah. Anytime we fracture something, we're lowering our frequency. And again, we have to be cautious not to make it all wrong and beat up ourselves, but it's looking at, what are you putting out from heart, from thoughts, from action, from words? What are you really putting out? And when you can elevate what you're putting out in frequency, you're going to elevate what you get back.
Yeah. Circling back to that, you talked about people who have made, great success with, and they use a lot of, maybe foul language or things like that. When I look at it, I really just think no judgment on that. It's like, okay. Like,
I swear sometimes it comes out. It really does.
I did recently at Leonard. He had it coming, man. I'm telling you. But regardless, I think, okay, great. Like that's something that they've done. But I also look on a different, for myself, I just like, okay, well, what value does that contribute into the world? Really, what is the value around that?
Yeah.
To me, I just don't see it.
Yeah. So. And I kind of giggle and I'm like, yeah, right, people. And look, there's big influencers and they're doing it great, whatever. It's your brand. It works. Cool. Bless you. Maybe you just have everything you want, honestly. But I kind of laugh because I'm like, well, consciousness doesn't need to swear. Consciousness doesn't need to take drugs. Consciousness doesn't need to do a lot of the crazy stuff that we humans do to try and find source in God. It is like consciousness is what we're seeking, right? So I think that's the ultimate prosperity frequency too, is to understand. It's like we talked about last week. There's this formless substance all around us. It is there, and what we put out, we get back. We are very, very much in control of our reality. The challenge is being able to start with that thought flow and then be in that congruent, aligned action, heart center, word flow, thought flow is probably some of the most challenging work we will ever do in our life, because we will be faced with fears. It can get scary to think, wait, you mean I can have what I want? You mean I can actually be successful or be happy? People will then hit an upper limiter like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Because we're not used to that. Yeah. And we're used to a little bit of drama and trauma, or some people are used to a lot of trauma. I had someone on one of my Instagram whatever feeds, she asked some really good questions, and she was saying, I'm so tired. I'm really tired. I'm like, start here, say this, do it this way. Don't say you're tired. Say your body's tired and go get the meditation pod. And she couldn't bring herself to do it. She just wanted to stay in the language of I'm working. I've worked really hard, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And I get it. After a while, some people just can't trust a solution, but there's a reason she ended up on my feed. And, I was kind of breaking it down for her. And I was like, get the meditation pod and start there. It's $27. If anybody wants the meditation pod, kismaawake.com/meditation-pod. But it's like changing the vibe, right? The frequency of it all.
Yeah. And choosing to step into that,
right,
I think is a scary place. And you talk about those upper limiters. I do appreciate that, the idea on a certain level that, I've tried so many things. Like I definitely know enough, right? I've probably got enough information, but it still hasn't manifested the way that I want, So why would I invest in something else when I already have, when I already know or have anything I need, or when, when the answers are already locked inside of me.
Right.
And this is where I don't know about you, but this is how I look at it, is those things are actually true. You probably don't need a lot more information, maybe a bit.
Yeah.
Right. There is information, and an injection of new information can, even just a tiny bit, can really change your perspective. So sure, but that's not the biggest piece.
Right.
And it's also true that the answers are locked inside of you. Yeah. That is 100% true.
Absolutely.
It always is.
Yeah.
But what's also true is that you're the last one who's going to see it.
It's really tricky to be inside the bottle and read the label on the outside.
It is. It really is. And that's where it comes in, to step in and keep stepping in and keep stepping in and keep stepping in and keep stepping in. I think that's one of the things that you've just done so beautifully that really has created so much, such an impact in the world. It didn't happen just because you were like, oh, this is perfect, and it was the best time, first time out and everything like that. And if anybody has any questions about that, you can scroll back in our podcast feed and listen to those first couple episodes.
Oh boy.
Right. But, but truly it's that willingness to keep stepping in. Can you talk a little bit about what does that do for somebody's energy, and what does that do for somebody's frequency when they have that willingness? I
like to look at it that, let's just say let's just go, right? There's this big universe, spirit, source, God, whatever you want to call it. There's this supreme cosmic substance around us, in us. It's made us. We have no idea. And let's just say there are different entities or guides or angels, whatever your thing is. I kind of just defer to the universe, consciousness, Brahman, but there are definitely guides. And when we get lazy, indifferent, when we go to a lower vibe, you might just say the support it's not that it's not there, but it's not as interested. And the reverse is, what I always tell my students is, when you take action, an action coming from faith, and you're willing to be less attached to the results because you're like, I know I'm going to take action. If that doesn't work, I'm going to go freaking take action again. And you believe so much, your guides get very excited. I just like to say your higher self really has fun.
Yeah.
So if you just bring it down to, you have a higher self, it's a higher version of you, and it's there and it's rooting for you. It's like, come on, things are going to happen when you're in flow and action, dynamic action, not this chaotic, competitive taking action, taking not so good, giving, receiving, in flow, being dropped in, being focused, you're going to receive.
Yeah. You know what it makes me think of is David Hawkins, what the heck?
Power versus Force.
Yeah, thank you. Now I can remember his name, but I can't remember the book. But he talks about those emotions,
right,
and willingness being a level that where he's basically scientifically proven the frequency of these different emotions or states of being and willingness. So lots of times the tipping point they talk about is courage in that, which is basically like your head's just above water.
Yeah, courage is not what it's actually, we need to get to willingness.
You got to get to willingness to really step in and to really accelerate. But that's where where things start to exponentiate. Ooh, is that a word?
I think it is.
Cool.
Yeah,
Look at me with the
exponentiate.
25-cent word there. Exponentiate your prosperity.
We're so proud of you.
But thank you. It's that willingness to keep stepping in. I love how you put that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it, look, it's, it can be like, what? You mean that didn't work? But something's always working when you're facing forward. Something I think that's an important thing to remind ourselves is like, all right, say, if you're building a business and you're launching a course or something, it falls flat the first time, tweak it, change it, do something, get up and do it again. We didn't ride our bike the first time perfectly. We fell. Freaking A, when I rollerbladed, man, I fell all the time. I had to really practice. But, it's like, I just fully believe that when we go into the it's possible frequency and we're like, all right, what I'm putting out is coming back and we're really, really going for that. And we're taking out all the other stuff, all the gunk, all the noise, all the judgment, face forward, keep doing, it's going to work. It might not look exactly like you wanted it to, but be receptive. There's always a divine timing and divine plan.
You're bridging a really interesting gap here between spirituality and materiality, right? So the material of like what you're manifesting in your world and in your life. And lots of times, that bridges directly into money,
right?
Money, like financial prosperity. How do you see those two frequencies interacting and intertwining in a certain way? Like, do you see conflicts between that or like
between spirituality and money?
Spirituality and money, yeah.
No, I think there's a big myth and misconception that if you're going to be spiritual, you have to be broke. And that's just not correct in any way, shape, or form. We were not put on the earth to be broke. We were not put on the earth to be poverty. And all we have to do is look at nature. Nature is not in poverty. Nature is all prosperous, all abundance. I'm not saying you have to be a millionaire. Like, I'm not saying in order to be spiritual, you have to have all this money. Remember, prosperity will be a mindset. Some people will have a certain amount. If they're looking at the money portion of prosperity, it's a certain amount of money that's really prosperous. Great. Someone else will have a higher amount, whatever it is. But, being in poverty is not being spiritual. It just isn't. And to make money wrong means we're making this energy of the planet wrong. That brings us food, that pays our bills, that puts a roof over our head. So we can get really sticky around money.
Making it wrong.
But if we make it wrong, then we're making a whole bunch of things wrong in our life that money has brought to us.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I have seen a lot of that in the spiritual communities. Outside of the religious realm, for whatever that is, talk about prosperity, man. Catholic Church. Whoa. Well, like massive prosperity.
Yeah. A lot of the churches have it down, the tithing, and tithing is great. It's from Catherine Ponder. I was just reading it this weekend. It is 10% of net income for a business. And I think she does
That's her formula?
10% of net. Or yourself, 10% of net, something like that. It's not always gross. It's net.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the richest man in Babylon, he talks about that too. It's like, 10%. You build your army. He kind of thinks about it like an army, and your army of little soldiers, and you send your little soldiers out to do your work for you. It's kind of cool.
Right.
But anyway, that's the conversation that I've heard is like, okay, well, they're really frustrated with the government. They're really frustrated with the way that things are going and capitalism and the greed that they see and things like this. So it's like they've woken up to a certain level to see like, there actually is greed in the world. And that's true. There is greed in the world, and they've made it all wrong. And then it's like, oh, well, I don't want to have anything to do with money. Can you talk a little bit about like, well, what does that attitude do to money in your life?
Well, if you don't want to have anything to do with money, you're going to struggle with money. If you're okay with that, then be okay with that. But why turn against it? You can decide that you don't need a Lamborghini or this, whatever. That's okay. But let's not make it wrong.
Right.
Just like, why make love wrong? Why make joy wrong? Making things wrong, even why make sadness wrong or anger wrong? Like, just look at it. What is it doing for you?
Yeah. A game I play sometimes with these things like this, like in this example, say like money. A game I play around with it is think like, okay, well, if this object or this thing or this circumstance were another human being and I talk to it the way that I'm talking to it in my head, like how would that other human being react?
I know. Exactly.
Interesting, right?
And the energy we give out is the energy we give back. We get back. So
now you're speaking about these different levels, like, okay, well, this is prosperity for this person. This is prosperity for that person. And we've seen many times where a person wins the lottery and they have massive influx
and they lose it all
of wealth, and they lose it all. Right?
Because they don't have a high enough prosperity frequency to maintain it.
They don't have the frequency to maintain it.
No.
Or the container.
The frequency, same thing. You know, the wealth container, the frequency, you know, you could imagine you have a wealth container, and if the frequency is low and you've got a lot of energetic congestion, you have a lot of limiting beliefs, you don't feel worthy to have money, and all of a sudden you're winning the super lotto mega thing, whatever, there's going to be a challenge, as we see again and again.
Yeah.
It's very sad.
It's an energetic mismatch. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, is that a similar pattern, maybe just on a smaller scale, of somebody who sees in their business or in their life the kind of boom, like, oh, I've made it, you know, I've made a great month, and then the next month is like zero, you know?
Yeah. Somewhere it's like, oh, what happens if I'm really doing this? Or they get to a certain point and they're excited. They take their foot off the pedal. They lose focus. Like, we can't do that either. The other thing that is important is just the prosperity spending, which I look at wise spending. So we know people can make a lot of money and they can spend a lot of money before you know it, they're in trouble. So that's not prosperity spending either. It's like really using the intellect and being wise about it.
Yeah, that's an interesting kind of piece of it. Yeah, I've had that conversation in my own head, and certainly, you know, worked with clients and in groups where it's like, that's a thing. I was like, okay, well, am I being stingy and lack thinking here, or am I really just being wise about it? And I think that's always a great question to ask.
I think it's a great question to ask. You know, it's like, it goes back to when we talk about spirituality, you know, that teaching of renunciation, it's the value of it. What's the value of this to you? Like, for some people, like when I flew back from Hong Kong, it was of value to spend. It was like, wasn't much for a business class. The upgrade, I think, was $500 or something. So it was crazy. I was like, oh, that value, I'm taking it. That was valuable to me. That amount of money. If it had been 3,000 upgrade, I might have been like, I don't know, maybe, but and everybody's different.
Yeah.
So fly first class, business class if you want. Just, is it valuable to you to spend your money in that way?
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I think it's really helpful. Those are these are some of the really common questions that come up, and they come up in your group. You know, I'm wondering if you can talk about a few places where, because there is a continuing conversation to be had here, I think. Like, we've done a good job, I think, to open up some of the areas of it and start to just really give some ideas and get you thinking about prosperity in your life and how it flows and how it works. But there's a continued conversation. It's something that really, truly, for your health and your wealth and your spirituality and your relationships and your love and all of that you want to stay in that conversation. So where do they go? Yeah,
go to kismaawake.com/groups if you're not already in my Facebook group, Codes of Consciousness. It's such a cool group. I'm in there doing videos all the time, and it's pretty much just like, I'm leading the way. So if you like it, stay. If you don't like it, don't stay. That's okay. But people aren't throwing other things in there. We're like maintaining this frequency of prosperity in all ways, right? Money, wealth, health, love, spirituality. So go there, check it out. And if you're interested, I've got an upcoming cool course, the Karma Money Cleanse, which is going to dive deeply into the old paradigms, the belief, the ancestral, what did our parents put on us? What did we take? All of that. That's a very, very deep dive, and that's coming up. So feel free to find me on Facebook, message me, or send an email to info@sourcemovement.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
Super excited for all the things coming. Super excited for Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
I have a dilemma.
What's that?
I'm having a dilemma right now because also today is kind of a big deal, full moon.
Oh, right. Waisak.
I don't geek out on the full moons and all that stuff usually, but for this one, this is kind of a big. It's basically like Jesus and Buddha are having chai with the good people of Earth.
Buddha and the teacher of the planet.
Yeah, so it's kind of it's a big energy, and we're doing a meditation tomorrow night, and I can't not watch Game of Thrones, so I'm going to go do this beautiful, amazing meditation. I'm going to come home and I have to watch it. Like, I can't not watch it.
Well, you'll be pretty clean and clear. So, look at it that way. It's not going to trigger a whole bunch of stuff. And you've fallen in love with a lot of those characters. So
I'll probably have to use my energy tools to
clean it up
before I go to bed.
Or you
maybe
could
watch a comedy.
You could just remind yourself it's a TV show.
I could.
Don't you think everyone, they could just pause and be like, it's a TV show?
It's not just that, though. It's like,
these are not your relatives.
No, but it really is it's the energy of the show too. Like, you don't have to believe, in a certain thing, or be feeling a certain way, but you can just contrive that emotion,
right?
Or that thing, and it affects your energy,
right? For sure.
So here's this thing. It's just like, it just is what it is, and I can't help it. But I'm just gonna have to sort it out. I can't not watch it.
Yeah, I know. I'll watch it too.
All right,
it's cool.
Here we go.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, everyone, tap into your heart, look at your thoughts, be super receptive to all that the universe, God, source, spirit has to give you, because when you think about something, it's really ready to show up. And I know one of the big pieces is just like, drop the worry, drop the fear. You can totally do this.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cosmic Kisma.
I like that.
Namaste.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.